he comments, "Hope this isn't FOIable." You say to him, "Delete at the end of every day," and he laughs and puts his thumb up at that. Was it your practice to delete messages at the end of every day?
Scottish Government advice in relation to this was not to retain information for longer than it was. There was advice given to Scottish Government employees which specifically dealt with informal messaging, and they need to delete on a regular basis any information which was not relevant.
Could I turn to another subject, please? What was your understanding of your responsibilities with regard to the use of informal communications in the 3 posts that you held during the course of the pandemic as an employee, as I understand it, of the Scottish Government?
So informal communications, as I've outlined in my statement, have been used were in a way largely for to raise situational awareness, to kind of direct people towards particular pieces of information, to convey information about particular meetings which were taking place, which were used to try to arrange, in some cases, discussions or agreement around about particular situations. You will see from some of the groups which have been submitted and that I was a part of, I have described that whilst these meetings or that way of communication was useful for that purpose, that any information which was particularly pertinent or any decisions should be captured and put into email form.
I think it's correct to say that evidence has been given during the previous week that it's not just a question of decisions being captured in that way, I think in order to put them on what's called the corporate record, but that discussions engaged in which individuals engaged in the pandemic response also required to be recorded that way. Is that not correct?
Pertinent information, yes, and I think you'll see from one of the conversations within and the advice I give to participants in one of the chat that's how it should be captured.
Could we look at INQ 000334433, please? This comes from a WhatsApp group chat, I understand, called CMO Weekly Call. And I'm particularly interested in going to this particular passage, which is from July of 2021. This is a conversation between yourself and Graham Ellis, in which he comments, "Hope this isn't FOIable." You say to him, "Delete at the end of every day," and he laughs and puts his thumb up at that. Was it your practice to delete messages at the end of every day?
Scottish Government advice in relation to this was not to retain information for longer than it was necessary, was to make sure that any information which was pertinent, as I say, any information, particularly discussions, which ended up in a decision, was captured in within the corporate systems. So my practice was to make sure that any information which was important in that way was then captured in email form on the system, was formally recorded so that it was an auditable trail. And I think you will see the evidence of my approach to this within the conversations and within other conversations, that I exhort other members of those conversations to do the same. And but my practice was, when information was no longer useful, it shouldn't be retained.
My question was whether you deleted your messages at the end of every day.
If not at the end of every day, then certainly on a frequent basis, I deleted information which was no longer needed to be kept.
But your position is that, as far as you're concerned, you would have, before doing so on a daily basis, extracted pertinent information from the exchanges, sent them onto the corporate record by email, and that those emails would then have recorded the information that was within the message before you deleted it.
So any important decisions that were taken, it wouldn't be a verbatim account of a conversation, but it would be the essence of any decision or any approach which should be taken, or any information that had been given. Generally, what I found was that the information systems like this were used to convey information about exchanges which were either already beginning on emails, or information which was being passed on through emails, documents which were being passed on in that way.
You referred again in your answer there to decisions. So does pertinent information, as far as you're concerned, mean information which demonstrates that a decision has been taken?
The most important information which was about definitive information, which may include a decision. So once perhaps a consensus has been achieved, what that consensus was.
I took from what you were saying a moment ago that there was someone had informed you that there was a need or impetus towards not retaining too much information, and that was an important part of your thinking in this regard. And of course, organisations like the Scottish Government can't keep every piece of paper and every document or every WhatsApp message. Where did the impression of that being the impetus, which should be an important part of decision-making in this regard, come from?
So there was advice given to Scottish Government employees which specifically dealt with informal messaging and the need to delete on a regular basis any information which was not relevant.
Can you remember in particular which advice? Because there were a number that you were relying upon.
I think this was advice which was, the one I recall was perhaps on the Saltire website, which had been given out towards
There was one that was issued on the Saltire website in April 2020. Was that perhaps it?
It would be towards the beginning.
Yes, we looked at that with Ms Fraser on Friday, but that would be the one that would have guided you.
So that would be one, but there was also advice which was given and reminders which were given in discussions with the then Director General, who again reminded us that official business shouldn't be done within these mediums, and that there should be regular deletion, partly for security purposes, from that medium as well, and that it shouldn't be seen as a secure medium. At
that time, just to be clear for the personalities again, the Director General was that Mr. Wright?
It wasn't at that stage. That I don't recall that instruction coming from Mr. Wright. I might be mistaken, but I think it came from Miss Graham.